चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। श्रीमतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तनं हृद्यन्तस्त्व भद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्ववैदिक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाध्य सर्वलौकिक दृक्पद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवतो प्रभु कलिद्वंतोतितादित्या श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेवाय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तुते। मद एक बंधु मद संगिन मद गुरुन् मद महाधना मन निष्ठार्क मन भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधु तादा इन अति नीच करा हाना मुंचा कदाचिन्मा प्रेम न रित कंथयो स्पुरः। गंत्रा श्रीमद् भागवताम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. So, in another session of our Bhakti Vaibhav. So, we are discussing Canto 4, and we have like two shlokas left from chapter number 3. So, we'll just complete that chapter 3, and then today our discussion will be on chapter number 4. Right? So, quick a review of the last part of chapter 3 is where we saw how Sati, with that desire to actually go see her relatives and be a part of the sacrifice conducted by her father, she gives so many reasons. And then we saw how Lord Shiva, he gives reasons why Sati should not go. So quickly just going through those reasons. So first reason Lord Shiva says is that Sati, you made the point that yes, we have not been invited, but to go to one's father's house, do we need an invitation? She said, we don't need an invitation. But Lord Shiva said, that is true, provided that person is not a fault finder and if that person does not become angry with us. So that's the first point. Then Sati may say, but my father he's the chief of the Prajapatis. He has so much wisdom. So, why are you saying that he'll become angry, he'll find fault? But then Lord Shiva makes says that verse, which is actually a very important verse, which says that if a person has all the good qualities, but if those good qualities are accompanied by what? Pride, then all those good qualities becomes false in that person. Right? It's like, this point is a very practical point for all of us. Like, we may have certain good qualities, but as soon as there is pride, all those good qualities are contaminated. And Prabhupada gave the example of what? Milk is good, but milk touched by the lips of a serpent causes poison. Similarly, this good qualities are, yes, they are good, but as soon as there's pride, it becomes a fault. Right? And then Sati's point, Sati in the mind was thinking that, yeah, okay, I agree, but even animals show affection to their children. I am just Daksha's beloved daughter, so he will show affection to me. But then Lord Shiva makes a point, but Daksha, his mind is disturbed, and one who has a disturbed mind, he cannot be trusted. He cannot be trusted. So that's another very practical point that yes, we everyone has certain qualities, certain nature, but in the mind is disturbed, then all those qualities, that person cannot be trusted, because what he does and what he does not do, no one can say. Right? So he makes a point, and then further. Sati is saying, okay, if my father speaks some unkind words, it's okay. I'll just be tolerant. And what was Lord Shiva's reply to that? If an enemy shoots arrows at you, you can tolerate that. I mean, that is expected. But if our own relative speaks harsh words, that cannot be tolerated. That is actually more painful than the arrows of an enemy. And that kind of grief will torture you day and night. And then Sati is saying, okay, what if I go alone? Right? What if I go alone? And then Lord Shiva is saying, even if you go alone, you will not be respected. Why? Because of your connection with me. And then you go there, and you will actually think that because of your connection with me, you are actually not respected, and you will actually start thinking, oh, because I am connected with Shiva, I'm not getting that respect. Right? So that was the point. Okay. Then Sati is thinking that, oh, maybe Lord Shiva, you have some hostile feelings against my father. That's why you're making all these points. And then Lord Shiva says, no, I do not have any hostile feelings towards your father. Right? Um, right. And he makes the point that he makes a point that that the problem is that because he, like Lord Shiva, has certain opulences because of being self-realized. Daksha, he cannot attain those opulences, and hence he cannot tolerate, or he's envious of those qualities that Lord Shiva has. Right? Being unable to rise to that standard of Lord Shiva, Daksha feels envious of Lord Shiva. Right? And then further she makes a point, and that's coming to the last few verses, that he makes a point that, anyway, he's your father-in-law. You should have stood up, in the assembly, he should have stood up, showed him some respect. And what was Lord Shiva's point? Lord Shiva said, yes, common people, they have these dealings, but for me, I am always offering respect to the super soul in the heart. So my offering respect to Paramatma in the heart is actually already showing respect to Daksha. So because I am unlike other common people, my showing respect to Paramatma was already showing respect to Daksha. But he did not see it that way. Right? And then Sati is thinking it was all come for a sacrifice. Sacrifice, so many things to do. Everyone is ready. How can you be in Samadhi at that time? Imagine we have like a big festival and everyone is like, okay, Janmashtami, do. It's like, Prabhu, I'm in Samadhi. And then Sati is saying, how can you be in Samadhi at that time? And what was Lord Shiva's answer to that? He says, I do not have a control over this. And then that famous verse, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Sabditam, that the pure consciousness of a jiva is this Vasudev platform. Where did Vasudev appear from? Vasudev. Right? Vasudev is Krishna. Vasudev Krishna. He appeared, his father is Vasudev and Devaki, right? Vasudev. So similarly, that Vasudev is also a state of consciousness. And when we actually achieve that state of consciousness, that Vasudev, Sattvam Vishuddham, Vasudeva Sabditam, when we attain that state of consciousness, then Krishna will appear. Just like Krishna appeared to Vasudev, similarly Krishna will appear in a consciousness. And Krishna is independent. He can appear anytime. Right? So it's not in my control that when Krishna appears and when I will actually enter into samadhi. Right? So, so that's the verse we ended with. 23 is where we stop. And then we have two more verses in the last chapter. So we'll just do 24 and 25. Okay, just 1 minute. Any comments so far? And also another point, if you last time I mentioned this was such a nice point. Prabhupada makes a point. Simply by cleansing the mirror of the mind, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is reflected in our consciousness. This is actually a point that Jiva Goswami explains in Bhakti Sandarbha. I heard this in a class that that when our consciousness is purified, then we can see Krishna. Why? Because Krishna is reflected in our consciousness. You know. So imagine that state. We are chanting Hare Krishna, and then we come to a state where Krishna is actually reflected in our consciousness. We can see Krishna in our consciousness. Right? Right. And Prabhupada actually says, how can we attain this Vasudeva's platform? By pure devotional service. And particularly he mentions that Anya Bhilasita Sunyam, right? And then the second verse he says is actually Savai Pumso Parodharmo Yato Bhaktir Adokshaje Ahetuki Apratiyata. So if you just think about this point, that by default, when we talk of, like, the example our acharyas give is when you say water, you know, you can say, I'm giving you water, or one can say, I am giving you pure water. When someone is giving water, one way we actually consider that, okay, it is good water, right? Now, in terms of bhakti, as such, bhakti is always pure, you know. But from our side, when we are practicing bhakti, we actually cover the certain aspects of bhakti with our conditioning with the three modes of material nature. And hence we read in how in third canto Kapil Dev is actually explaining, right? Bhakti performed by the practitioner in mode of goodness, in mode of passion, in mode of goodness. But what our Acharya, like Rupa Goswami, Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, starts off by giving the definition of pure devotional service. And if you see, okay, there may be some other groups who may be talking about bhakti to Krishna, but where is that emphasis of pure devotional service, where it is Anya Abhilasita Sunyam? Anya Abhilash means desire, no other desire other than desire to please Krishna. Jnana karmadi anavritam. Jnana karma adi is not covered by anything. That is the standard of bhakti. That is the seed of bhakti that we are receiving from Srila Prabhupada. Like when you talked about the Bhakti Lata Beej that we receive from a guru, what kind of seed we are receiving from Srila Prabhupada? This Anyabhilasita Sunyam Jnana Karmadi Anamritam Anukulena Krishnanushilam Bhakti Uttam. This Uttama Bhakti, that seed is what Prabhupada is giving us. And this is very, very rare. Very, very rare. Some other groups may be talking on bhakti to Krishna, maybe talking of kirtan, but that emphasis of pure devotional service, that is what. And it is only when one practices pure devotional service will Krishna actually appear in our consciousness, because only pure devotional service will bring us to that Vasudeva platform where Krishna can actually appear. This point is, like, I was just hearing in class by Prabhupada, and he was saying, even if we have one tinge of material desire, I mean, this is one way scary for us, but he said, even if you have one tinge of material desire, then Krishna, through the material nature, he'll fulfill and you'll get another body to fulfill that desire. One way it is like, what? Even one material desire? And that's why this emphasis on you need to come to that Anya Bhilasita. That is our goal. So one way our goal is actually a lofty goal where it is no other desire other than desire to please Krishna. And is that possible? It is possible because we have got the pure seed from Srila Prabhupada and the pure process, the perfect process to cultivate the seed in a way that it can be Anya Bhilasita Sunya. right? So hence Prabhupada is mentioning the point that only pure devotion service can bring us to the Vasudeva platform, and then in that Vasudeva platform, which also Prabhupada said is known as Kaivalya, right? Kaivalya, that in that platform, Krishna actually appears. I know if I mentioned this last time, but Prabhupada mentions a point in purport that when we say Jayam Vishnupad Params Parivrajakachaри Astotara Sad Shri Srimad, right? What is that Astotara Sad? Prabhupada actually explains. When we say that 108 Astotara Shat, that actually means that our Guru is actually Srila Prabhupada. When we are saying this to Prabhupada or Bhakti Samsara, our Gurus, saying that means Astotara Shat means he is situated on the Vasudeva platform. He's situated on the Shuddha Sattva platform. And hence we say Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Astotar Sat. So next time when you're hearing this Prem Dhwani prayers, we can actually meditate. When we hear the Astotar Sat, oh, that means my Guru is on the Vasudev platform. He is on the Shuddha Sattva platform. Right. And then Prabhupada mentions this is the action of the internal potency. Right? See, bhakti is not of this material world. So as long as there's a contamination with even one material desire, how can that be that pure internal potency of the Lord? Right? So when bhakti actually has to descend into our heart, and that is the action of internal potency. Right? And it is only when this happens, then Krishna's Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhave grayam indriya. Not with our senses. It has to descend, right? It has to descend. So by our devotional service, we'll be one way elevated to that platform where Krishna can actually descend. Yeah, and then, when Prabhupada makes the point that when we are purified, Supreme Personality of Godhead is reflected in our consciousness, he makes the point that one can realize Supreme Personality of Godhead and clearly see the face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that purified consciousness. When Krishna is reflected in our consciousness, we can actually see Krishna face to face. Right? That is the state. And Lord Shiva is in the state. He's always in that state of samadhi. By his sweet will, he reveals himself by his internal potency. A devotee can never command. Actually, there are some bhajans also where they say like, Krishna, please come, and it is like one way the devotee having that mood of commanding. Not in our Gaudiya, but you know, you hear sometimes some common bhajans where, not in our tradition, I'm talking outside the tradition, where they demand, Krishna, please come. And Prabhupada makes a point, a devotee never commands Krishna. Right? This is not the position of a devotee to command. He is satisfied by one's pure devotional activities. Oh, if he is satisfied, if Krishna is satisfied with our devotional activities, then he will actually reveal himself. So we are, in front of Krishna, we are always a beggar. We cannot command anything. Krishna, give me this. I chanted 32 rounds today. Give me this. I mean, what are we? We are just a beggar. How can we demand anything from Krishna? Okay. Okay, so last 24. Let's do Sanskrit, and 25.
24. Tate niriksho na pitapi deha krit daksho mamadvitad anuvatashtraye yo vishvasrig yagyagatam varorumam anagasam durvachasa karotiraha.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Therefore, you should not see your father, although he is the giver of your body, because he and his followers are envious of me. Because of his envy, O most worshipful one, he has insulted me with cruel words, although I am innocent.
So here, the last two verses is basically Lord Shiva saying, I have given all the reasons, and therefore I'm saying you should not go, right? Therefore, this verse starts with tata. That means therefore. Therefore, and then here she says, he addresses Sati as Vara Uru, right? O Sati, and then he says, te niriksha na pita. You should not go to see your father, right? Api, although dehakrit. He is the giver of your body. So this word dehakrit, Prabhupada and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur elaborate on this. That one meaning is, though you have received your body from Daksha, though he is your father, still you should not go. Another meaning is that another meaning of Deha Krit is one who actually takes away your body. So basically here, Lord Shiva is actually one way predicting that if you actually do not listen to me, then you'll be giving up your body. So this verse and the next verse, he actually gives the hint. If you do not follow, that's it. You'll be giving up your body. Right? And then here Prabhupada explains, like, what does it mean giving up your body? Because here the insult from your relatives, you will not be able to tolerate it, and it'll be worse than death. When you give up your body, it will be worse than death, and therefore you should not go. And again here he actually again makes a point that he has already said before, that Daksha Mama Dvita. That basically Daksha and his followers are actually envious of me, right? And Mam Ana Ana that word Anagasam, right? So I am actually innocent, but they are actually envious of me, right? And he has insulted me with cruel words. Now, if you see the entire speech of Daksha, entire speech of Lord Shiva, is Lord Shiva criticizing Daksha? See, when we have a conversation and someone has said something before, now I mean, Daksha really spoke insulting words in front of the whole assembly. I mean, that is like really like, I mean, everyone was there. In front of everyone, Daksha insulted Lord Shiva. We saw all those verses, like really calling him like monkey-eyed and really like so degrading insults. You know. And Lord Shiva one way had every reason to actually, criticize Daksha. But in this conversation, if you see the mood of Lord Shiva, he is actually one way to Sati. He has a very, a loving mood. He's explaining not like, oh, you should not go. I told you. Don't you remember? Like, it is not out of anger, out of love. He's actually very calmly explaining. Oh, Sati, this is the reason, this is what is this is what is this. Hence, I think you should not do. And then only up to the point to actually say how Daksha is actually envious of me, to that extent, as a matter of fact, Lord Shiva is making the point. Just what is required to convince Sati, to that extent, he's saying, oh, Daksha is envious of me. But he's not. And this is the quality of an elevated personality, that even though someone may be insulted, but how does he see it? He doesn't go back and do an insult as tit for tat. He just one way tolerates. But what is needed for a situation, he may say, okay, I don't think I should go and again talk to that person because last time I did this and he was insulting to me. As a matter of fact, not with an ill heart. So we already read one verse where Lord Shiva, he told Sati, I don't have any malice towards your father. Right? So this is the glory of Lord Shiva. And this teaches us so much that when we are, hurt by someone, what should be our mood? That yes, it may be a scar on our heart. And Lord Shiva, actually we read that point, right? How Lord Shiva remembered that insulting words even though it happened a very long time back. And we made the point that how Lord Shiva, because he is in charge of the mode, sometimes he gets little touched with that mode, and hence he actually remembered those insulting words. Right? So, yeah. So yes, there may be a scar in the heart. So one way, our philosophy is not tit for tat, and we see that quality in Lord Shiva. He's just like, okay, yes, I am hurt, but I'm tolerating, and then I'm just going to stay away. And hence, just to convince you, I am making these points as a matter of fact, not with malice, but this is how I'm stating. So I mean, like, just this conversation is so good, and I hope you all are appreciating the mood of Lord Shiva while he's actually explaining this. Last verse, 25.
Text 25. Yadi vrajishyasya hayamachavacho badram bhavatya natato bhavishyati sambhavitasya swajanat parabhavo yada sasadyo maranaya kalpate.
Hare Krishna. If in spite of this instruction you decide to go, neglecting my words, the future will not be good for you. You are most respectable, and when you are insulted by your relatives, this insult will immediately be equal to death.
Mhm. So if you see the words, it says sambhavitasya. Sambhavitasya means you are most respectable. But swajanat parabhava. So sambhava and parabhava, right? Swajanat, but when your own relatives, swajana, will actually insult you, that insult, saha, will actually maranaya kalpate. Right? So we heard this word marana. Marana means death. Will actually result in your death. Will be equal to your death. Right? So basically, in last two verses, Lord Shiva is one way predicting Sati, if you go, you will give up your body. So hence, don't go, don't go, don't go. Right? So very clearly, he said there's not like any room for like ambiguity that, oh, if you decide, but I am thinking this, but he's clearly said. He said in a non-malicious mood, but he said as a matter of fact, very clearly establishing his point, Sati, you should not go. Okay. So now we'll see in chapter number 4 what does Sati do. Okay. Any points so far?
Prabhu, I have a question, bro. Prabhu, as we can see, Lord Shiva or Sati, they are not like normal people like, you, me, or somebody. They are gods. Okay. So there is this whole chapter, Lord Shiva and Sati, the conversation, I'm, Prabhu say like if they're like, in Bhagavad Tattva kind of then their talk would be more of like, the welfare and, protection or maintenance or the supremacy of Lord. But as we see here, their talk is like, you don't know, your family will insult you. This is like a very, very low level of conversation. I know they're almost equal to God. So do we see an I'm kind of I've been always thinking on this point that why is Lord Shiva Sati's conversation is like me and my husband's conversation rather when they're
Yeah.
they're like
So, see, one way we can say, yes, Lord Shiva, he has this transcendental aspect where he's always absorbed. He's in Samadhi. We read that whole point, right? But as soon as we have to deal with anything of this material nature, there is all these dealings. Material nature means there is going to be this, where one may have to like, and also, like if you see like, our gurus and all these pure devotees, like, yes, they're chanting, they'll give Hari Katha, very inspiring, but sometimes they have to come down to the material platform where they have to deal with, that, oh, this problem is that this temple person did this, and then hence this has to be done, and then GBC made this rule. Material nature means this has to be. But that does not mean that their conversation is just like any other material conversation. Their conversation, though it seems very mundane, they are talking of the fight between two. I mean, even at GBC level, you have like, okay, GBC India has this mood, and then here, global this mood, and all these conversations, right? But why are they doing all this? For a greater purpose, so that ISKCON worldwide movement can continue, can flourish. So they have to, one way build the bridges, or like, the fire extinguish the fires that happen. But as long as material world is there, these things will happen. We cannot escape it. But we shouldn't see these conversations as just mundane conversations. They are meant they may appear mundane, but their purpose is the higher purpose of finally, connection to Krishna or enhancing one. Like, even like Prabhupada, if you see his conversations, like there's a video of like Los Angeles, right? Where Prabhupada is sitting, and if you've seen that video, and I forget who's that person. Anyway, when Prabhupada disciple is saying, and Prabhupada, they are counting of money, and then Prabhupada is saying, oh, okay, the devotee says, and Gopal Krishna Maharaj is saying that if we could actually invest, like if all of us can invest money in Mayapur, and everyone can get rooms, and this can happen. And then Prabhupada says, no, no, first money should go to BBT. Our first priority is books. So it's conversation. And then I heard one more conversation. There's this one lady, she was like very new, but you're looking for spiritual, like some spirituality. So she came, and then Prabhupada was there, and she said, I would like to meet your Swami. So they said, okay, you can come. And then the lady came inside, and Prabhupada was already having a conversation with our disciple. And that conversation was all about like money. And this is like lady first time she's come. And Prabhupada is talking about like, oh, here we should send so much money here and so much this. And then also there's some dispute there actually. And the conversation was going on, and she's sitting there, you know. She's sitting there. And she's actually wondering, what is this? I came to a spiritual person, and all they're talking about money and this issue, that issue. And after some time she stood up and she said, I came to find peace. And Prabhupada, just like he was talking to this person, and just in one move, he comes aside and says, sit down, you have come to the right place. And he continues talking. And then after the whole conversation, then he turns to her, then he gives her the whole attention. But she was like, so like, what are they talking? But even all those conversations, we shouldn't see from a materialistic point of view. They are also meant for a higher spiritual goal. It's not just like mundane conversations. Similarly, here we should see, yes, they are very elevated personality from our side. We should see what lessons we can learn from this conversation, but we shouldn't consider just like a materialistic husband-wife conversation. So okay, so Rashi Mataji, you have a question? Okay.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Mataji's question, what brought to mind for me is how during the when Sri Ram was looking for Sita in the forest, and Sati takes the form of Mother Sita and tries to test Lord Ram, and then at the end of it all, Lord Ram bows down and prays to Mother Sati. And when Lakshman says, like, why did you bow down to her? He's saying, I'm bowing down to Maya, right? Even she is not free from being bound by Maya. Like, Maya is so strong, I'm bowing down to her. That is what came to my mind, because everybody, even though they're gods, they are if affected by Maya.
Except for Krishna. Except
for Krishna. You're right. But I was just thinking about that. That's what came to mind when Mataji said, how are they talking about mundane things? Because they, even though they're gods, they are bound, they have Maya, and only Lord Krishna doesn't.
Yes.
That's what came to mind.
Yeah. So like how we discussed in the previous verse in chapter 3, that why Lord Shiva actually still remembered those insults when he is transcendental. And that's why Prabhupada explained the point in the purport that even though he is the topmost devotee, he is on that Shuddha Sattva Vasudeva platform, but still, because he's in charge of mode of ignorance, there's sometimes a slight touch of that mode, slight influence of that mode, right? So, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the points. So let's continue. We are going to go chapter 4. Chapter 4, Sati quits her body. So in this, we'll see how Sati actually responds to this whole hearing. She has been patiently hearing Lord Shiva, but what is going on in her mind? And when she actually goes to the sacrifice, what happens? And then the conversation between Sati and everyone assembled in sacrifice. What happens to Sati after that? So all that is described. Okay, so let's start with text 1. So text 1 to 5 is just describing Sati's mood and finally what she does. Okay, text 1.
Vrindavan Vilasini Mataji, did you want to say something?
I was just sharing my point. I think Prabhu covered it, that I like the point that how you said that if our only desire is to please Krishna, then only we will be on the Vasudev consciousness, and then only the Krishna will appear. And even if we have one material desire, Krishna is so loving that he will say that, oh, you have this desire, remain in this material world, fulfill it, and then you can come back. So,
It's so scary when we hear this point. How can we become like 100% pure? But we have hope because Prabhupada is following the process, the perfect process given by Prabhupada. We just stick to this, and then and we pray for mercy, and then from our side it's impossible, but from the side of our Guru, our Prabhupada, it is possible. Okay, so 4.4.1.
Chapter 4, text 1. Maitreya Vacha Etavad Uktva Viraramas Shankaraha Patnyang Ganasham Yubhadyatra Chintayan Surididrikshu Parishankita Bhavan Nishkramati Nirvishati Dvidhashaya Sam.
Hare Krishna. The sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva was silent after speaking to Sati. Seeing her between decisions, Sati was very much anxious to see her relatives at her father's house, but at the same time she was afraid of Lord Shiva's warning. Her mind unsettled, and she moved in and out of the room as a swing moves this way and that. Hare Krishna.
So here it says, Etavat Uktva. So this is what Virarama Shankara. Shankara, Lord Shiva, Etavat Ukta, after speaking so much, Virarama, he became quiet. So I have said what I wanted to say, he becomes quiet. And then here it says, Patni Anga Nasham, he Ubha Yatra Chintayan. And Lord Shiva understood that in both cases, what are the both cases? One is Surit Didikshaha, right? Surit is the friend or relatives. Didiksha, that being anxious to see her relatives, one case. Second, Pari Shankita Bhavat. Second state is her fear of denying the instruction of Lord Shiva. So in both cases, Chintayan, Lord Shiva understood it would lead to the destruction of body of his wife. Right? If he follows, then because she had a strong desire of seeing her relatives, she will not be able to stay. That is almost like, she has to give up her body. And if she goes, she'll be insulted by her own relatives, she'll not be able to tolerate. So both ways, Lord Shiva could see is going to not be good for her. And then it says that what was Sati doing? Niskramati nirvishati. Niskramati means moving out. So one mind was like, okay, let me go. Let me go see my relative. In spite of hearing all this, and one form was actually going out. Another form was, no, how can I deny my husband, Lord Shiva? And one form was coming. So moving out and moving in. Moving out and moving in. And then this Dvida Sa, it is almost like, in this way, though one person, it appeared that Sati had taken two forms. It just appeared. It's just not really. But it appeared that she had two forms. One form going out, being attracted to her relatives. One form, fear of Lord Shiva and coming inside. So in that way, it appeared that there was two forms of Sati. And it's so interesting that this, maybe we can relate to this situation that, sometimes we have an instruction from someone. Oh, you should not do this. This is common. Like sometimes our parents say, no, you should not do this. And our mind is already that, oh, I have to do it. I have to do it. And then one is our pulling of our mind, where you're like, oh, I have to do it. And one is the instruction that, and also it may be like a fear. If I don't do this, my father will be upset or he'll do this. And it's similar. So we get the fear of like not following instruction and a desire of doing something, whatever, in sports or games or whatever that thing is, And normally who wins? I think mostly it's the mind who wins, at least for our conditioned jiva, is the mind. Even though like we hear like instruction which may be very strong saying that, oh, if you do this, then this is going to happen, it's not going to be good. But the mind is so strong that in spite of strong instruction, the mind is just pull and we just do. If it's already done in the mind, that means it's done. That's it. Like it's almost impossible to get the mind out and listen to the instructions. But that was Sati's. So Prabhupada said in the purpose, she began to move like a pendulum, inside, outside. Okay, inside, outside. Right? Okay, text 2.
Text 2. Surya didiksha pratighat durmana sneha nrutatyashrukalati vivala bhavam bhavanya pratipurusham rusha pradhakshayit pradhakshaiti vaikshata jata vepatuhu.
Sati felt very sorry at being forbidden to go see her relatives at her father's house, and due to affection for them, tears fell from her eyes. Shaking and very much afflicted, she looked at her uncommon husband, Lord Shiva, as if she were going to blast him with her vision.
You can see here. So here it says Prati Ghata Surit Didiksha. So this word Surit Didiksha, it comes in verse 1 and verse 2. And basically here Prati Ghata, right? So it means basically being prevented by fulfilling her desire to Surit Didiksha, to see her relatives. So what was her state? Durmanaha. She was feeling sorry in her heart, right? Why? Because of Sneh, she was feeling so much affection to her relatives, and at the same time she was not allowed to fulfill that desire to see, so she was feeling sorry, and the result of that, Rudati Ashrukala. Tears started flowing from her eyes, right? And her body, Jata Vepatahu. Vepatahu means shaking. Her body started shaking. And Ativala, she was very much afflicted, right? And then it says, so that's her reaction. And then here says, Bhavan aprati purusham. And here, that word aprati purusham basically means a person who has aprati means no rival, right? So why is this word used for Lord Shiva? Aprati purusham. Right? Bhavan is Lord Shiva, aprati purusham, without an equal or rival. See, if you receive an instruction from someone, like, this happens with parents, right? If your mother says, no, you should not do this, then what will you do? You go to the father and say, Papa, I want to do this. And then the father will tell the mother and say, oh, it's okay, he can do it, right? But here, the aprati purusham, basically, there is no one else who is superior to Lord Shiva that she can approach and again try to, that personality that someone else can convince Lord Shiva. Who else can she go to? Right? Lord Shiva, there's no equal, no rival to him. Therefore, it's said that aprati purusha, right? That bhavam is aprati, no equal, right? And therefore, she became angry. Like you are the authority. You are merciful to everyone, right? Why are you not merciful to me? I cannot understand, right? And this made her very angry, right? It made her very angry. Prabhupada in the purport says, because there was no one that she could approach to convince Lord Shiva, then Sati took shelter of woman's last weapon. And that is crying. Prabhupada says. Which forces her husband to agree to the proposal of his wife.
Oh, Haripasha Prabhu mentioned.
Huh?
Haripasha Prabhu mentioned this in the class.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it? Something. Yeah, I remember something he said.
Krishna Radharani's pastime.
Yeah. So anyway, so she took shelter of the woman's last weapon, weeping, which forces her husband to agree to the proposal. Okay. So let's see text 3. What happens? Oh, 1 minute. There's one more point that Prabhupada says. Yeah. Oh, okay. So one point he says, in other words, since Lord Shiva is Atma, Shiva also means Atma. It is indicated that Sati was prepared to commit suicide, give up her Atma. So that's one more point. But okay, text 3. Tata.
Tato vinishvasya sati vihayatam shokena roshena chaduyatartam Tritoragat straina vimuda grihan premnat manoyortam atat satam priyaha.
Thereafter, Sati left her husband, Lord Shiva, who had given her half his body due to affection. Breathing very heavily because of anger and bereavement, she went to the house of her father. This less intelligent act was due to her being a weak woman.
Mhm. Okay. So basically here, tataha means then, what happened? Then Sati actually, she left her house. She left that house. She was moving in and out undecided, but then she left her house. Vini swasya. She was breathing very heavily because of shokena rosena, bereavement and anger. Right? She was feeling so like bereaved in her heart, and she was feeling angry. And dayata rida. So all these verses actually shows that emotional state of Sati, like from the text 1 till here, where it says dayata rida. Her heart was afflicted. Right? And then Pitro Agat. She went to her father, she decided, okay, I'm going to go. And then Straina Vimuda Dhiya. This is actually the important point. So here he says her intelligence was deluded, And we can see this point that even Bhagavad Gita makes this point that how when we are emotionally disturbed, or when the emotions are very strong in our consciousness, our intelligence does not work. And that's why we should not make any decisions or act in a way when our emotions are very strong, because we lose our intelligence. That emotional state covers our intelligence. And that's what was happening to Sati. Because the emotions were so strong, even though her intelligence was like, how can I deny? How can I refuse to follow my husband, who is the great Lord Shiva? And she knew the glories of her husband. And we'll see further in the chapter how she glorifies her own husband. She knew the glories, right? And how can she deny? How can she not follow her husband, this great Lord Shiva's instruction? But the emotions were so strong. Right? So this actually says whenever we are in an emotional state, don't make any decision. Best is go and talk to someone who can actually guide us. Where you can actually express our emotions and be open and say, this is what I'm feeling. As a matter of fact, right now, this anger is coming. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling this. And when we actually speak it to someone in confidence, then what is happening, because we are letting out of the emotions are flowing out, are being expressed through the words, then that emotions are actually one way making space for an intelligent advice to go. So some way we need to vent out that emotional state so that some intelligence can actually we actually make space for intelligence to actually even act during that time. But if we are in an emotional state, best is either, even that may be okay, if someone is into journaling, you can just write everything down and say, we have to somehow vent out that emotion. Otherwise, here is clearly saying our intelligence becomes vimuda. Vimuda means our intelligence becomes diluted. There is no space for the intelligence. And that's why we see maybe there's some, family dispute, emotional disturbance. And people go to such extent that we cannot even imagine, in family fights, or sometimes they kill each other, or something which you would say come on, you grew up together and intelligently it would make no sense. But because emotionally it is so strong, there's no intelligence there, right? So Prabhupada actually here, okay, and another point in the verse it says, Premna Atmana Ardham Adat Satam Priya. Shiva had given her half his body due to affection to her, right? So in spite of Shiva, Lord Shiva accepting Sati means he is one way given half of his body to her. In spite of that, In spite of accepting Sati, he was not willing to give her that permission. And hence Sati became angry. You already accept me as a wife, right? Half of the body you have already accepted. Why are you not, just like a simple request. I just want to go see my, why? And then she was just like that emotional and that anger. So so Prabhupada starts the purport by saying, Vedic conception of family life, the husband gives half his body to his wife, and wife gives half of her body to her husband. In other words, husband without wife or wife without husband is actually incomplete. Right? But here, the point is actually, again, the point I already explained, I think, that because of her emotional disturbance, she could not see that how Lord Shiva was actually still speaking for her benefit. She couldn't see that. Right? Yeah. Okay. So, here further Prabhupada talks about like how this weakness can lead to diverse and misunderstandings. But Prabhupada makes a point that even though there are misunderstandings in a marriage, the wife should not leave the protection of her husband. And Sati is actually just about to do that. She's going to leave the protection of her husband to actually go to the sacrifice where she's already warned that certain things may happen which she will not be able to tolerate. So Sati actually is doing that. So here Prabhupada says misunderstanding between, there will be misunderstanding between husband and wife, but you shouldn't leave the husband's protection. Okay, text 4.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mati.
As you said, yeah, we all know also mind is very strong. At the same time, your Paramatma, Antaratma is also guiding you internally as a Chaitya Guru, right? But how to differentiate in particular thing, like particular decision making between is it mind guiding us or Antaratma is telling what to do? That is hard.
See, first is emotional state. About that is intelligence. About that is the guidance of Paramatma. Right?
That is going to be soft, very soft.
No. I mean, if you're in this state, you don't have access to this state. Right? See, what does Krishna say in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? When can one actually say one is actually in contact with Paramatma? When the mind is controlled. Right? Bhagavad Gita, clearly Krishna makes a point in 6.7 that one who has actually conquered the mind, right? Then he is in touch with Paramatma. So for us, practically just to be on the state, for us, whenever we think that, oh, maybe this is Paramatma, mostly it is not. We should just say, this is my mind. Our mind is so strong, and it is like, it takes a long time to actually come to a state where we can say that, okay, at least to some extent, my mind is controlled. It's not easy to control the mind. So mostly we should just say, oh, this is my mind speaking, I mean, we shouldn't be in that, oh, no, this is Paramatma's inspiration. If we feel, okay, no, I think Krishna wants me to talk to another person, a senior devotee, and say like, this is what I'm feeling, and please guide me, talk it out, because Maya is very tricky and mind is very tricky. So Maya acts through our mind, and the mind will actually trick us to say that, oh, no, this is Krishna. And also, maybe we are hearing a lecture because our mind is in that state, and we are hearing a lecture, and the person is making a point, but we hear the point as if it is like, oh, it is supporting our case, right? And then we'll say, oh, see, I heard the class, even the speaker is saying the same thing, but he may not be saying it. It's just like because we want the speaker to say that, and that's the kind of flow that will go into our heart. So it's all the mind, is a trick of the mind. So I mean, to come to a level where we feel like, oh yeah, I need to make a decision, and Paramatma is actually saying this. If it is a decision just based on like, okay, should I do this or should I do this? This is one seva or this another seva or this, where it is just, there's not so much emotion. There, maybe the access to Paramatma the inspiration of Paramatma is more accessible. Where it's not so emotional decision, Like in Sati's case, it's very emotional.
Yeah.
But sometimes we may have to make a decision that, Prabhu, should I go to Vrindavan, or should I do this, or should I do this? Where it is all based on, like, I can write it on a paper, say, if I do this, these are the pros, these are the cons, and if I do this, it's like very in those cases where Paramatma is more accessible. But as soon as we are in the emotional state, never trust the mind. Never trust the mind. Take shelter of Shastras, take shelter of devotees, take shelter of our mentors, ask them for guidance. But in emotional state, mind will trick us saying that, oh, Krishna wants me to do that. I've seen sometimes people, they have this thing that they are, you have to make a decision, and they will, I've heard this, many people do this, they'll write it in a piece of paper. Right? 2 pieces of paper. One is this, and they'll put it in front of Krishna, and they'll say, okay, I'm going to pick up one paper. Whatever it is, that is what Krishna is telling me. No, don't do that. Ask, Krishna is manifesting his mercy through the Shastras, through devotees. Take shelter of that. Okay?
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Okay, text 4.
Tam anvagachan drutavikramam satim ekam trinetranuchara sahasrashaha saparshada yakshamani mamadadayaha puro vrishendrastarasagata vyataha.
Translation, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When they saw Sati living alone with rapidly thousands of Lord Shiva's disciples headed by Maniman and Mother quickly followed her with his bull Nandi in front and accompanied by the Yaksh. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so basically here it says that Druta Vikramam Sati. Sati started leaving rapidly. And how did she go? Ekam, alone. Right? And then further it says Gata Vyataha, without fear. She said, no, I am going. Though I should not be not following my husband's instruction, I am going without fear. She just walked. And why does it say she walked out quickly? Because she did not want to give any time for Lord Shiva to again say, no, stop, Sati. She did not want that. So very quickly she just said, okay, I'm going. And she left alone. And then it says, Trinetra Anuchara. The followers of Lord Shiva, Sahasra, by the thousands. Right? Yeah, so thousands of Lord Shiva's disciples, they are headed by Maniman and Mother. They quickly followed her with Nandi in front, accompanied by the Yakshas. Okay. Right. So Sati did not care that she was going alone, therefore she was almost fearless. Right. Right. And also the point that Prabhupada actually says, Anucharaha. Anuchara means the followers of Lord Shiva. He says that, yes, there were so many followers and they could understand Lord Shiva's desire. Because Lord Shiva is concerned about Sati, and that's why he's saying all this. And because she wants to go alone, the followers understood that Lord Shiva would want us to accompany Sati. So they actually followed. So the Anucharaha means one way to understand the desire of our master. Right? Many times like they say, one way is, what is the best kind of disciple? Who actually understands the heart of the guru. And even before the guru says, he knows, oh, my guru will want this, and he actually does that. Second class is what? The guru has to say, I want to do this. And then disciple does it. Third class is what? The guru will say, I want you to do this. And disciple is like, but Guru Maharaj, I have this, I don't want to do it. And he doesn't follow. Right? So, but the best is Anuchara, here Prabhupada says, immediately understand the purpose. What will please my guru? Even without the guru saying, you actually do it. Okay, next 5.
Tam sarika kanduka darpa nambuja shvetat tapatra vyajana sradadibihi gitaya nardundubi shankavenubhir vrishendramaropya vitam kitaya yuhu. Artana Mataji.
The disciples of Lord Shiva arranged for Sati to be seated on the back of a bull and gave her the bird, which was her pet. They bore a lotus flower, a mirror, and all such paraphernalia for her enjoyment and covered her with the great canopy, followed by the singing party with drums, conch shells, and bugles. The entire procession was as pompous as a royal parade. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
So basically, like, Sati started walking alone, but all the followers came. And then, was it just like, okay, in a rush, she's going, so, no. The whole assembly was like, the entire program was as pompous as a royal parade. Because immediately Lord Shiva's followers came, and then here it says, lotus flower, mirror, paraphernalia for her enjoyment. There was a great canopy, singing party, drums, conch shells, bugles, everything. Quickly it was arranged, and that way Sati was going. So it was and why is this point actually said? Because when Sati actually enters the assembly, it wasn't one shouldn't think that, oh, she came alone, so that was like she came very quietly and maybe Daksha did not notice her arrival. No. They came in a very pompous procession. Right? Okay. Let's see, text number 6, what happens.
Text 6. Abrahma Gosharjita Yagyavaishasam Viprarshi Jushtam Vibudaishcha Sarvashaha Mridarvaya Kanchanadarbhak Charmabhir Nishrishta Bandham Yajanam Samavishat.
Hare Krishna. She then reached her father's house where the sacrifice was being performed and entered the arena where everyone was chanting the Vedic hymns. The great sages, brahmanas, and demigods were all assembled there. And there was many sacrificial animals, as well as pots made of clay, stone, gold, grass, and skin, which were all requisites for the sacrifice. Hare Krishna.
So basically, like now she reached her father's place. That's how this verse starts, that she reached her father's place. And then it says here, when she actually came, what was happening in her father's house? Yajanam Sama Vishat. She enters the place of her father's house, and a big sacrifice was going on. And Brahma Ghosha. Brahma Ghosha means sounds of Vedic hymns. So as soon as she entered, all these Vedic mantras were being chanted from all sides, and Urjita from all sides was decorated with these Vedic hymns. Right? And then this word Vaishasam, so one meaning Prabhupada gives is destruction of animals. There were animals there who were meant for sacrifice. Another meaning Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives is that there was competition between different rival scriptural opinions. That there's yagya and so many people are assembled, and some of them saying, no, we should do the yagya this way. Some of them are saying, no, this should be first, and they're quoting Sanskrit shloka too actually. But that quoting was actually all Sanskrit shlokas everywhere. It was resounding, right? And then who all were there? Viparsi, Justum, great sages, Vibhudai, demigods, Sarvasa, on all sides there was all paraphernalia. There was clay, there was wood, there was iron, gold, kusha grass, skin, like animal skins, and pots, etc. Okay, so first is learned sages and brahmanas. They assembled to chant Vedic mantras. Some of them were arguing conclusions of the Shastras, but all was just in that sound vibration, such that with spiritual sound vibration. And Prabhupada in the purport, he says, but for us, this transcendental sound vibration has been simplified in the transcendental vibration of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we don't have to, like, if someone says a Sanskrit shloka and says, oh, Prabhu, this is the conclusion. Even if you don't know Sanskrit shlokas to defeat him, we know, Prabhu, I don't know all those Sanskrit shlokas, I know this, all I know, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Right? So Prabhupada says, no one is expected to be highly educated in Vedic ways of understanding in Kali Yuga. Why? Manda, Sumanda, Matayo, Manda Bhagya, Upadrita. That is the state of everyone in Kali Yuga. So they're not expected that, oh, you should be, so and so learned to actually be a devotee. That's what it is. And then Prabhupada says, Yagya Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Sumedha. A sign of intelligence is what? By how many Vedic shlokas we know? No. A sign of intelligence is Sumedha Sa, means if you are engaging in Sankirtan, that means you are intelligent. It's not that how many Sanskrit shlokas you know, that's not intelligence. The real intelligence is to come together and engage in Sankirtan. Right? And then also Prabhupada says how in Kali Yuga there is no proper ingredients. You go to a shop to buy something, you want to buy milk, and the milk is contaminated with vitamin D3, it has fish oil. All ingredients are actually all contaminated, right? And people don't have money to spend large amounts to do yajna, right? And people, even we don't have qualified priests to do yajna. So all these sankirtan not recommended. What we all these yajnas not recommended. The only thing we should do, engage in sankirtan yajna. And also Prabhupada talks about this animal sacrifice. You know, I was hearing one class that the question was made that was there really animal sacrifice in the Vedas? And the speaker was making a point that there's a story in Mahabharata of a person by name Upabhramshu, something like Upabhramshu. That basically this person, he can travel everywhere. So he was just traveling and he came to a place where a big yajna was happening. And then he came to the yajna and then there was this like a debate going on where they were debating, should we sacrifice animals or not? And they were quoting that in Sanskrit there is a word called aja. Aja one way means animals, but another meaning of aja is grains. Grains which are, you know, with the husk like those. And they were debating back and forth, that whether we should sacrifice animals or not. So the speaker was making a point that even at that higher demigod level, they have these, whether animal sacrifice should be done or not. So it is not like, oh yeah, Vedic sacrifices means animal sacrifices. No, it's like kind of a continuous debate that always goes on. But the point that Prabhupada makes in the purport that even if they do it, even if animals are sacrificed, but that is only to renew their life. An old cow or someone may be sacrificed so that it gets, or an old goat or someone may be sacrificed so that it gets new life. And that is done only to test the efficacy of the mantra. Right? And Prabhupada gives the example like how even medical research, right? They do research on animals. They'll make a vaccine or anything, and first they'll start giving it to animals. Why? To see that whether it is working or not, right? So similarly, these animal sacrifices may be done is just to test how powerful is your mantra. So if the animal is not getting a new life, that means you're not qualified to perform the sacrifice, right? So that's the only thing that one can say. It is just a test of a Vedic mantra. Right? It's not meant for like a sacrifice and now you eat meat. That's never the conception of the Vedas. Okay, text 7.
Tam agatam tatra na kashtanadriyad vimanitam yagya krito bhayajanaha rite susrishdvai jananim cha sadra prema shrukantya parishasvajurmudha.
Hare Krishna. 447. When Sati and her followers reached the arena, because all the people assembled there were afraid of Daksha, none of them received her well. No one welcomed her but her mother and sisters, who, with tears in their eyes and with glad faces, welcomed her and talked with her very pleasingly. Hare Krishna.
So here it says, Tam Agatam. So how was her procession? It was a very pompous. And there were bugles and drums. So it's not that people could, oh, I didn't notice. I was busy in sacrifice. I didn't. No, the whole procession was coming with all these sounds and everything. And when they, Tam Agatam, when they arrived there, then Na Kashana Adret Vimanitam. Right? So basically they were not received nor offered respect. So Prabhupada makes a point in purport that there were other sages, there were brahmanas, and they wanted to receive Sati, but they were fearful that Daksha is the organizer of this. And if we actually, show that welcome, then Daksha will not be pleased. So as not to displease Daksha, they did not welcome or show respect to this procession. Right? So bhayat yagya kritaha. Yagya kritaha means the performer of the yagya, that's Daksha. Bhaya. Because they were fearful of Daksha, they did not actually receive, except Rite, except who? Swashra, Jananim, right? Swa Adaraha, right? So basically here it says, except her own sisters, her mother, they did not like, whatever the fight is, that natural affection could not be held. And they welcome Sati, and Prema Ashru Kanthaya, their throats were filled with tears of affection. They embraced her, right? Their faces were so happy to see Sati has come after a long time. So only the mother and the sisters, they gave an very welcome full of affection to Sati, but everyone else did not welcome or respect, did not offer any respect to Sati and all the followers. Right? And Prabhupada makes the point, mothers and sisters have the natural affection. And this is also such a nice point that even though there may be dispute, okay, maybe the children are fighting, but for the mother, she doesn't care for all this. That affection is just natural. It's not that, oh, you said this, you said this. That doesn't happen in a mother's mind. That natural affection. Because of that, she embraced Sati, and then tears were flowing, loving feelings were there, right? And then Prabhupada said, women are normally soft-hearted, right? So the love cannot be checked by artificial means, and then Prabhupada said in purport, men are sometimes very hard-hearted, but women are very soft-hearted. And then, yes, and then learned Brahmanas and demigods were afraid of Daksha. Therefore, they did not receive Sati and the followers of Lord Shiva. Okay, text 8.
Prabhu,
Yeah.
so why is the Brahmanas who are supposed to be, truthful, are fearful of, like, it doesn't work like that, Varnashram. Brahmanas.
Well, here also, see, if you see authority-wise, Daksha, because he is the chief of the Prajapati. So naturally, even the Brahmanas, they are accepting Daksha as the chief of the Prajapati, and that is actually, right for them to do. So it was right for them to accept Daksha as the chief because he's the main organizer. Like even, if there's any sacrifice, there's a main person who's organizing. And the Brahmanas, though yes, they have to follow the Vedas, but they have respect that, okay, this person is the main organizer. On his instruction, we have come here to perform the sacrifice. Because Brahmanas on their own, they don't have the money to do the sacrifice, but they have the wisdom. But there has to be one person who is the organizer. And here, Brahma himself has selected Daksha as the chief of the Prajapati. So naturally, they have that respect. And because they have the respect, now they don't want to displease him. And hence, they did not respect. So Prabhupada makes the point that even though they wanted to, but that respect for the organizer, they did not respect. They did not welcome Sati and the followers.
Bro, this will not be leading to a good society, in the sense where, truth is not prevail. Authority is not truth. Truth is authority.
Yeah. I mean, see, the whole problem here is the leader has pride. Even though the Brahmana is true, but if the leader at the top is actually like Daksha, then everything is messed up. Hence, the leader actually, if he is, the best standard, if he's a Vaishnava. If he's a Vaishnava, then, then everything will be perfect. But if he is not a Vaishnava, he has his pride and envy and all these, then even though the Varnashram system one may try to establish, there will always be issues. And that's what we are seeing.
That's the significance of Daivi Varnashram comes in, like putting the higher principle.
Yeah, keeping Krishna in the center of everything. Yes.
It's this society is a complete collapsed society, Prabhu. Like when Brigu becomes angry, when the counter sing,
Yeah, that's a very nice point, and that is okay. I'll come to that point. Arvind Prabhu, you have a different point, or?
No, Prabhu, the man Mataji was saying that Brahmana should be fearless, and they should have said something. So it reminded me of Sakshi Gopal story, where uh, the elder Brahmana promises the younger
Yeah.
Brahmana, but then when he comes back, and because of the the son is opposing and the family members are opposing, he's not able to tell the truth because he's worried that they may commit suicide, or so then he's praying to the Lord that please arrange in such a way that my word is also kept and my family members are also protected. But he did not have the courage to say that no, that I have said it, and when he was asked in public also, he did not say it then. So yeah, it just reminded me of that. So he's also a Vipra. He's also a Brahmana.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. So I was going to make the point to Mataji's point that in the third canto, what was our main theme? The main theme of the third canto was, if we want to enjoy this material world, there is a Vedic way of doing it. Third canto is directly addressing our enjoying tendency, where we are saying, oh, this material world is for my enjoyment. And that's why we discussed this point, right? Why in the third canto, the creation, our favorite section of Bhagavatam, where we have Pradhan, Mahatattva, all those things, right? 7 times is actually explained, that creation. Not elaborately, but I mean, few times elaborately, but Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj says, says 7 times it is there, again and again. And why again? Just to make the point that this material world, there are laws. It is created by someone. There are laws, and if you don't follow the laws, you'll get punished. To actually take away that enjoying tendency, that without discrimination, I can enjoy this, I can do this, that, right? And what is the alternative third canto gives? Vedic way of life. Everyone following? Right? So third canto is taking away the enjoying tendency and saying, you want to enjoy, do it in a Vedic way. And what is a perfect example in third canto?
Kardamamuni Devahuti.
Kardamamuni Devahuti. Right? They enjoy? Yes. I mean, imagine how much they enjoyed. 100 years they were in that Akash plane and enjoying for like 100 years. And then Kardamamuni expanded into 9 forms just to give enjoy. I mean, they enjoyed, but they did Vedic way. On contrast to who tried to enjoy without following the Vedas? Kashyap and Diti, right? Kashyap and Diti. So that's perfect. So third canto establishes the importance of Vedic way of life. Now, what is fourth canto establishing? Yes, Vedic way of life is important, and Vedic way of life means sacrifices. But if that one sticks to the Vedic way of life, and if he does not address the anarthas in the heart, right, then it will lead to a disaster. And this is very common even in, Indians who, you say like, okay, yeah, they're following some Vedic tradition. But unless that spirit of bhakti is there, where the anarthas in the heart are addressed, even that Vedic way of life is not sufficient and will lead to problems. Imagine Daksha. Is he following the Vedic way of life? Yes or no? Yes, right? I mean, he's doing all these sacrifices. He is living the Vedic way of life. But the problem is what? No bhakti. And because there is no bhakti, that anartha in the heart of pride is actually so strong that everything else is actually now faulty. He's doing Vedic sacrifice, but now it is actually faulty because of the pride in the heart. So one step is enjoying tendency. That has to be what? You want to convert that to Vedic way of life. But is Vedic way of life itself everything? No. Vedic way of life without bhakti is actually leading to all sorts of problems. So fourth canto again and again will bring us to a point, and we'll see again stories related to this. Like example, further in the fourth canto, we'll see story of who? Prithu Maharaj. He's doing what? Sacrifice. And what? 100 sacrifices. But what's the problem? 99 he comes, and then Indra comes, steals the horse. We know that. I mean, those who know the story will come later. But and then what does Brahma say? No, be happy with 99. You have devotion. That is more important. 99, okay, 99 is better than 100. Then further we see Prachinimari. He is what? Attached to a Vedic way of life. But that is problems. Right? So fourth canto is saying, yes, Vedic way of life is important, but they have to be connected with devotion with Krishna. Otherwise, even Vedic way of life is not enough. And this is actually, when we go out for book distribution, we may meet so many families who may be like, oh yeah, I do Vishnu Sahasranam, I do this sacrifice, I do this, every Sunday I go, attend the temple. They may be doing all these things. But without bhakti, is that enough? It's not enough. Because those anarthas in the heart is only addressed when one actually takes up devotional service, takes up daily sadhana, takes up a process to deal with those anarthas. So yes, it's better than unrestricted enjoyment, but it's not good enough. Right? So that's what we see in this entire thing. Yes, he's doing yajna, but with that pride, that's a problem. And then that leads to the brahmanas also not doing what they should be doing. Why? Because Daksha has pride and they want to satisfy. Right? So again, keep this mind in the fourth canto. Again and again, we are going to see with problems with just Vedic way of life without devotion. Like how we say religion without the spirit behind religion, which is devotion. Okay, text 8. We did 8? No, 8. Yeah, we did 7, right?
Text 8. Sodarya samprashna samartha vartaya matra cha matri sashibhischa sadaram datam saparyam varamasanam cha sa nadatta pitra pratinandita sati.
Hare Krishna. Text 8. Although she was received by her sisters and mother, she did not reply to their words of reception. And although she was offered a seat and presents, she did not accept anything, for her father neither talked with her nor welcomed her by asking about her welfare.
So her Saudarya, Matra, Swa, Shibhi. So her sisters, her mother, her aunts, like mother's sister, all of them, Samprashna, Samartha. They all received Sati, with proper respect, with greetings, right? Sa Adaram with respect, with adoration, Sa Paryam, right? And then they gave presents, they gave a nice seat. But this Sati accept all this? Here it says, Ahadata, she did not accept all this. Like though they were giving, she did not accept. Why? And then it says, Pitra apratinandita. Because of not being welcomed by her father, even though she was showing all this affection and offered a nice seat, she said no. My father, and she was the pet daughter of her father. And when she did not receive, she received such a cold, she basically did not receive any reception by her father, then she did not accept anything. Right? So Prabhupada says she was not at all satisfied by her father's silence. Right? And then Prabhupada makes an interesting point. He says, material bodily conception is so polluted that even a slight provocation, all our relationships of love and affection are nullified. And this is so true. Right? We see this even like, close brothers, one small like money dispute, or one small land, oh, this is mine, and that's it. All the love, all the affection immediately nullified. We forget everything that, oh, we lived so many years together, we grew up together, we had this exchange, everything, just one slight provocation, and then it's all nullified. This is the nature of the material world. And Prabhupada says, if it's only bodily relations are so transient, that even though one is affectionate towards someone in a bodily relation, a slight provocation terminates that intimacy. This is the nature of the material world. So if you put too much shelter in these material relationships, then this is actually opening our eyes to say, oh, material world, Kali Yuga particularly, there's going to be, some provocating situations. And one provocation situation and everything I'm dependent on in the relationship can be over. Right? So one way is like opening our eyes to, too much material bodily attachments. Okay, text 9.
Rudrabhagam tamaveksha chadvaram pitra cha deve kritahelanam vibho anadrita yagya sadasya dishvari chukopalokani vadakshati rusha.
Hare Krishna. Present in the arena of sacrifice, Sati saw that there were no oblations for her husband, Lord Shiva. Next, she realized that not only had her father failed to invite Lord Shiva, but when he saw Lord Shiva's exalted wife, Daksha did not receive her either. Thus, she became greatly angry, so much so that she looked at her father as if she were going to burn him with her eyes. Hare Krishna.
So here basically it says, so first Aveksha, she saw that yes, okay, she was not respecting her father, but here she saw Arudra Bhagam. That while all these sacrifices, everyone is like, his mantras are being chanted and everything, she saw how they were not offering any oblations to Lord Shiva. Right? And Prabhupada elaborates this in purport that when we say Swaha, right? So that offering respect is actually offering respect to all the demigods, sages, the Pitas, including Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And then how is Shiva actually offered oblations? And here Prabhupada said, Namaha Shivaya Swaha. Right? But they were not chanting this mantra. They were on purpose ignoring to chant the mantras for Lord Shiva. And not only that, Advaram. In the sacrifice, they actually have place for Brahma, place for other demigods. They do not even have a place for Lord Shiva. And then seeing this, Deva Krita Helanam, that how contempt was actually being shown to Lord Shiva. Direct insult to Lord Shiva. On purpose, Lord Shiva's mantras are not chanted. Lord Shiva is not given a space. When she saw this, and on top of that, and Anadrita Yagya Yadasi, her not being received in that assembly of sacrifice, then what was Sati's state? Adishwari Chukopa. She actually became greatly angry. How angry? As if Lokan Dakshati Rusha. With that anger, she could burn the 14 worlds. She became so angry that it just seemed like with her anger, she's actually going to burn the whole 14 worlds. Prabhupada makes another interesting point here. He says Sati's reason for coming, yes, we read so far that she wanted to see her relatives, but also in her heart, really she wanted to establish the glories of Lord Shiva. She wanted to somehow convince her father that Lord Shiva is very exalted. Why are you actually having this envious feeling and why this conflict? Lord Shiva is so glorious, and she was most concerned that the husband should not be insulted and the true glories of the husband be brought about. And when she saw it was a direct insult to her husband, she got greatly angry. Okay. Now, let's do one more verse, then we'll take a break. Text 10.
Jagarha Samarsha Vipannaya Gira Shiva Dvisham Dhuma Patashramasmayam Swatejasa Bhuta Ganan Samutitan Nigriya Devi Jagato Vishrinvataha.
Translation: The followers of Lord Shiva, the ghost, were ready to injure or kill Daksha, but Sati stopped them by her order. She was very angry and sorrowful, and in that mood she began to condemn the process of sacrificial fruitive activities and persons who are very proud of such unnecessary and troublesome sacrifices. She especially condemned her father, speaking against him in the presence of all.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so like few points in this verse. So basically here, you see Sati, she actually condemns. Jagara, she began to condemn Gira with words. What is the point I just made about the fourth canto? How it actually is condemning this sacrifice without devotion. And that's exactly this verse, what it is saying. Here is saying that Sati, she began to condemn this entire sacrifice. And then she says, Amarsha Vipanaya, with words which were choked with anger. It was like almost indistinctive words because so much anger was coming. Like, and maybe we have seen that when someone gets angry, they're saying, but it's just like, you cannot understand their words because so much anger. It's just showing how angry he was. And on what? One, Shiva, Dvisham, the enemy of Shiva, Daksha. She was angry at Daksha. And second, Dhuma Pataha, the entire process of the sacrificial fruitive activities. She was actually began to condemn Daksha and this. Right? And here says Shrama Smayam, performed by those who are proud of such troublesome sacrifices. Right? This is exactly the point, fourth canto, right? See, when people do Vedic sacrifices, and what happens? They become proud of following a Vedic way of life. You may approach them with Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and they'll say like, I do the sacrifice, I do this. They become proud. They are not even willing to actually hear or respect our Shastras, right? And then further, Swa Tejasa Bhutaganam, by her order. Okay, then here her Bhutagana, all her associates, they actually said, oh, we are going to injure or kill Daksha. But she said, no, stop, don't do that. Right? Don't do that. And then Jagataha Abhishinvataha. She spoke in the presence of all, so everyone could hear. Right? So when Daksha is going, Sati is going to say the next section, which is text number 11 all the way to 23, not so many points to discuss in that. So all this, when she's saying, everyone in the assembly has stopped speaking their sacrifices and their mantras, and they're hearing. She made sure everyone would hear what she has to say. Right? So Prabhupada in the purport, he says the sacrifice finally is meant to satisfy Vishnu. Sacrifice means bhoktaram yagya tapasam, right? Or yagesha, right? Vishnu is yagesha. He is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. But people, less intelligent people, they offer sacrifice for material benefit. And when they are doing it for material benefit, it is a labor of love without actual profit. Labor of love means, you're doing something you're putting labor. Why? Because you want to attain something. But if your goal is just to get something material, it is simply it is actually condemned here. Right? And Prabhupada quotes that verse, which is that Shama eva hi kevalam. Which is that verse? Dharma Sunisita Pumsam Vishwaksena Katasuya Na Utpadyati Ratim Shama Eva Hi Kevalam. So if it's not invoking that love for Krishna or Harikatha, it is useless labor. And then Prabhupada says, what is the proof that this whole thing was useless labor? Because what's the proof that the whole thing was a useless labor?
Because if one is actually performing sacrifices, they become humble and they respect other Vaishnavas.
Yes. The point is, imagine you're doing a sacrifice, and sacrifice ultimately is meant to please Vishnu. If you're doing a sacrifice to please Vishnu, and the Vishnu's best devotee is insulted, what kind of sacrifice is that? Right? Vishnu's topmost devotee, Lord Shiva, is insulted. What kind of sacrifice is that? Right? So that's the point Prabhupada says, that's why she became so angry. And Prabhupada says, when Vishnu or Vaishnava, they are insulted, one should become angry. So it was right for Sati to become angry. Right? So Prabhupada gives the example of Mahaprabhu, how Mahaprabhu, he was meek, so humble, but when Nityananda Prabhu was hit, then Mahaprabhu called, Chakra, Chakra, and he was ready to kill Jakai and Madai. And that should be our mood. So we should be meek, humble, tolerant, pranadapi sunichena, but when a Vaishnava is insulted, we should become angry, ready to defeat that Vaishnava. And then Prabhupada quotes this one bhajan from Prema Bhakti Chandrika, and he said, Narottam Das Thakur has said, Krodha Bhakta Dushijane. It's this is a nice bhajan. It says, Kama Krishna Karmarpane. So it actually makes 5 points. Right? So how we can use everything in Krishna's service? Can you use Kam in Krishna's service? Kam means lust. Can you use lust in Krishna's service? Narottam Das Thakur, yes. You can become lusty for Krishna. So Kam Krishna Karma Pane. Karmar Pane. Right? I will use lust in service of Krishna. Can you use anger in service of Krishna? Second point is Krodha Bhakta Dveshi Jane. How do you use anger in Krishna's service? By becoming angry on those who blaspheme devotees or blaspheme Krishna. So lust, we actually use it in service of Krishna. Anger, we use it being angry at those who are bhakta dveshi, right? Angry towards devotees. Third point, lobha. Can you use greed in Krishna's service? How? Lobha sadhu sangha hari katha. Right? So third point is lobha. You become greedy for association of sadhus and to hear Harikatha. You become greedy. I want this association. I want to hear Harikatha. Third, that is lobha. Fourth, moha. Can you use your moha in Krishna's service? So here, Narottam Das Thakur is saying, moha ishta labdha bine. That is basically, I will become bewildered. Right? Only when I cannot attain my worshipful Lord. If I cannot attain my Lord, then I will be bewildered. So that is moha. And the last one is Mada Krishna Guna Gane. Mada is madness. Can you use madness in Krishna's service? Yes. You become mad to glorify Krishna Guna Gane. Become mad to glorify Krishna. You are given time. Okay, Prabhu, 45 minutes class. And you are so mad that you give 7 hours class. Like his name is Radhanath Swami Maharaj, right? The organizer will come, Maharaj, we have this program and then at so and so time. And then Maharaj is he cannot stop speaking. He's so intoxicated with that Hari Katha. And that's the point here, that, he just like goes on and on, nectar just flowing and flowing, right? So, Mada Krishna Gunagane, right? So that way he says, these 5 things, Niyukta Kariba Yatha Tatha. So in this way, I will utilize all of these in service of Krishna. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada. Right? So these are our enemies, right? But he's saying how each one of these can be used in Krishna's service. Right? So Prabhupada in the purport quotes that Krodha Bhakti Dveshi. We use anger when Vaishnavas are blaspheming. Okay. So Prabhupada concludes by saying Sati's anger against her father was quite approved. It was approved. It was right what she did. Applaudable. Okay. So next we'll see how Sati speaks. And everyone is hearing from text 11 to text 23. Okay, so hopefully we'll cover that. So let's see if anyone has any points, any comments, questions, and we'll take a break then.
I like the point that real intelligence is in Kali Yuga is engaged in Sankirtan.
Thank you.
Prabhu, I've heard that once Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was in Bangladesh. He was supposed to give class for 7 days, like Bhagavad Sapta kind of, but not really Bhagavad Sapta. And he was given 1 hour a day because there were many other speakers also. So he spoke at a stretch for 6 hours. One shot. And all the 7 days he spoke only on one verse.
Wow.
Each class is 5 hours long. And that one verse is the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Amazing. Yeah. So that's our
intense.
Mother Krishna Gunagane. Thank you. Anything else? Any other points? So share any points that you liked in today's discussion.
I like the point about how the 4th canto is emphasizing how Vedic sacrifices are not enough. You need to also have the bhakti, and that if the anarthas are there underneath, then what you're doing externally may actually be not help. Like actually could hurt, be harmful. So we need to take care of that by doing devotional service.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we should remember this point throughout fourth canto, because again and again we are going to see this theme repeat.
One point that I found interesting was if we don't read the verse 9 and read the whole pastime, it can be out of context that why she wanted to go was to establish the position of Lord Shiva, not just as a demigod or a husband, but as probably as a Vaishnava.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. That's a nice point. We should remember that. Yes, one way, from previous chapter, we may think that it's just out of that emotional attachment, but she had that deeper reason. So, yes, thank you.
Prabhu, I was wondering on this question, like, as this point ended with this idea that Sati really wanted to go and preach to her father, basically, fix him. Then you're doing wrong, because at this point, only she is the only person who could actually fix him, because the Brahmanas are not, Brahma is not. I am the one, if I compassion or affectionately speak to my father, maybe he would understand the situation.
Yes. Yeah, that's the point, basically. Yeah. And then also, for her, she knows the glories of Lord Shiva. Imagine, you're connected to, husband and father. And if there's some friction between them, you want to establish that, why is this friction? My husband is so glorious, but you don't have the right understanding, and you have. So, you're my father. I can speak to you. With relatives, they can say, my father is there. I can speak to him. He's close. So.
But I think, Prabhu, if Daksha would have given her a little bit of oral reception, this wouldn't have happened. He would have been fixed, being a proper Prajapati.
But see, that's the point that we discussed, that what pride does, it closes the door.
Closes the door.
You have something to say, but I know better than you. So even though someone is speaking, the pride is there, it will come, it won't enter. You close the door. It will be saying this point, and like, I know better. And that's it. You cannot accept those instructions. So, and we're seeing that in Daksha's case, right? Okay, anything else?
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Yes,
so, in the verse, it was very important point was mentioned in verse 8, that the material bodily conception is so polluted, even a slighted provocation terminates intimacy. So we have seen the example of Kansa and Devki, just a slightest one, and she was like a dear sister of Kansa, but then he was ready to kill her. So that's the thing, the emotions can be bewildered like that.
That's a perfect example, actually. In a moment, from love to in a moment, ready to kill. Very nice. Thank you. Okay. So let's take a 5 minutes break.
Prabhuji, quick question. Sorry. Did Mother Sati have a Ishtadev? Did she have somebody that she was praying to? Other than her husband, Lord Shiva, maybe? Is it mentioned anywhere if she had an Ishtadev, or is she...
At least in this section, it's not mentioned. But
because I'm going back to the point that you had mentioned, right? That she was once Lord Shiva gave her the instruction that you should not go. She didn't have anybody else that she could turn to for advice.
Yeah.
And I was just which is where the question is coming from.
Yeah. So one way, we see, we hear other pastimes of how, when Lord Shiva got this Mahaprasad, and then, she did not get, and she was like, oh, how come you did not give me Mahaprasad from Krishna? And then she becomes Vimala Devi and receives Jagannath's Prasad. So that story is that shows that, yes, one way she is a devotee of Vishnu, Krishna. But her connection to Krishna is one way through her husband, because she knows her husband as such a great devotee of Krishna. It's almost like, like someone's guru actually says, oh, I want you to do, or gives an instruction, and you don't agree, then one way, like your connection to Krishna is through your guru. So who else will you go to? So that way, even for her, though her Ishtadev, which is not mentioned here, but from other stories we know that she's a devotee of Vishnu, that her connection is through her husband. So that way she was like, okay, who else can I go? So that could be one point. Yeah.
Okay. And one practical takeaway for me from all this reading this is, if you're not in the right state of mind, always have somebody that you can confide in, that you can have support from, so that you're not taking harsh or unintelligent decisions. Like, I'm just surprised that Mother Sati did not have anybody that could, knowing that there is going to be issues, like Lord Shiva has already mentioned it, that she didn't have anybody who could alert her, or who could pacify her, or who could give her some sort of support, to say that, this is going to happen, so be careful, like, be aware. I'm just surprised that there was nobody there who could do that.
I mean, Lord Shiva did, in a very nice way, explain to her, right? I mean, that's like, he wasn't, like, okay, you have to do this, that's it. He explained in such a loving way, calling, oh, my dear wife, I think this, I want to say this. He explained in such a nice way that, it's, yeah, I mean, it wasn't just like an order, okay, do this, or, it was in such a nice way. So, yeah. I mean, like
they say, have an assistant, who is going to, provide you with some insight to what is right, wrong, and or like in.
For her, it was her husband.
Who was not there at that moment.
She's meditating upon, because she was doing so much austerity to get Lord Shiva as her husband, right?
Yeah. So, what's your point?
No, Mataji's question was, who is Ishtadev?
Yeah.
So it's her husband.
Yeah. No, but was there anyone else she could turn to? That's
anyone else, yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. I mean, I was just thinking of the point that, as someone becomes like more of like, like Lord Shiva, he's like so high, then there are more people who are like followers, like even Sati is such a high position. Like if you're, like if you're one of like the Lord Shiva's followers, then you have so many associates you can go and talk to. But as you go high, then it's like a pyramid. Your connection is like people start looking up to you, Then it's like limited people that you can turn to for, seeking that shelter. So, and that's another point I was just thinking of, Yeah.
So this is what I was just thinking on exactly this, that our guru's situation right now is, they have their association is shrinking slowly. They are just, so the point, like, when even you have perfected, like sadhya and sadhana is the same, so when if you have attained perfection also, still sadhu sangha bhajana kriya
should always go. Yes.
One practical example is that how they are so busy, our Guru Maharaj, but still Guru Maharaj took time to spend 2 hours with His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj during Sadhu Sangha.
Okay, so let's take a quick break. We'll come back in 5 minutes. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Krishna Murari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So please come back and continue. Okay, so now we'll see what Sati is going to speak in that assembly where everyone is actually hearing. It's okay. Right. Can you hear me okay? So let's continue. Text 11 to 23 is where Sati is going to speak. So text number 11.
Devyuvacha ayasya loke syatirshayana priyas tatha priyo deha pritam priyatmanaha tasmin samastat mani mukta vairake rite bhavantam katama pratipayet.
Hare Krishna translation. The blessed goddess said, Lord Shiva is the most beloved of all living entities. He has no rival. No one is very dear to him, and no one is his enemy. No one but you could be envious of such a universal being who is free from all enmity. Hare Krishna.
So first verse is actually saying, yeah. So there are 5 points in this first verse. The first point is she's actually like, okay, we'll see if you want to see the last line. It says, Rite bhavantam kamata pratipatyet. Who except for you can be envious of a personality who has 5 qualities here. 5 qualities she's saying. The first one, she says, Ati Shayanaha. Ati Shayana means who can be envious of that person who has actually no enemy in this world, who has no superior, no rival in this world, who can be envious of that person. Second quality she says, so first she says, Na yasya loke ati shayana. No one in this world can, the person who has no rival in this material world. Second quality she says is tatha priyo deha britam priyatmanaha. That okay. So second, she says priyas tatha priyo. Right. So priyas tatha priyo. That basically to whom one is dear or sorry, to whom no one is dear or inimical. So that priyas tatha apriyo. Right. So no one is priya and no one is apriya. No one is dear or no one is an enemy to that personality. First is who has no superior or no rival. Second, to whom no one is a priya or apriya. Then third is priyatmanaha. Priyatmanaha means who is the most beloved for whom? For Dehabrita. Those who are bearing material bodies, Lord Shiva is actually the one who is most beloved to everyone, all living entities. Then fourth quality is who is Tasmin Samasatatmani, who is the soul of all beings. And the fifth one is Mukta Vairake. Mukta Vairake is without any enemy. So who except for you can be envious of such a personality, right? And the first point, Prabhupada explains that who is no superior or rival in this world. Prabhupada says Lord Shiva is qualitative incarnation of Supreme Personality of God, that he is almost he's almost as good as Vishnu, in the sense that how Rupa Goswami gives 64 qualities of Krishna. And then he says Narayan has 60 and Lord Shiva has how many? 56. So he's as good, one way as good. And in that way, he can be said to have no superior or rival in this world. Right? And also in that having that mood, he's equal to everyone. So no one is friend of enemy. Lord Shiva's vision to all living entities is basically he's somehow or other thinking how can they be benefited in the spiritual life. His vision is equal, and right. And then he's who is most beloved of all, who is the soul of all beings, and he has no enemy. Right? Then text number 12.
Doshan paresham hi guneshu sadavo grinanti kechin dvija gunamshcha falgun bahuli karishnavo mahatmasteshvavidad bhavanagam.
Twice born Daksha, a man like you can simply find fault in the qualities of others. Lord Shiv, however, not only finds no faults with others' qualities, but if someone has a little good quality, he magnifies it greatly. Unfortunately, you have found fault with such a great soul.
So if you see, says Teshu Avitat Bhavan Kaham, the last line. So only you can find fault in such a person. So what is the comparison here? So now we can see this verse is clearly the comparison, making a comparison between Lord Shiva and Daksha in terms of how they see good qualities and bad qualities. So here it says Doshan Paresham Guneshu Sadhava Grinantina. So Lord Shiva can find no faults in anyone. Right? Sadhus like Lord Shiva, they don't see anyone's fault. Right? They don't see anyone's fault. And then second point, what did they do? Falgun Gunan Bahuli Karishanavaha. And even if they say a small quality, they actually magnify it. So they don't see faults. They see anything small. What do? They fan the spark. Like how we say, fan the spark. They just see one small quality and say, "Oh wow, you're so good." And this is actually Mahatamaha. This is Lord Shiva. He's the greatest personality because of this quality. In comparison to that, you see you. Though Lord Shiva has no bad qualities, you are finding faults in such a person. So everyone has Subodhini? Okay, let me just share my screen. You can see this. So this is actually a very nice, yeah, okay, let me share. So yeah, page number. Screen. Oh yeah, no, it's okay. So now you should be able to see my screen. Yes. Okay. So just see this part here, this table here, right? On the right side top. Yeah, or either it's there on both left top, right top. So here we have 4 levels of sadhu and 4 levels of asadhu, right? And this is actually a very nice point that we can meditate on how we see other people, the glory of a person. Now, let's start with sadhu, right? Sadhu, what is the, so it goes to sadhu, then even higher is mahatara, even higher is mahatama, and highest is ati mahatama, right? So 4 levels of sadhu. Everyone can see? Okay. And then the negative 4 is asadhu, but worse than that is asadhutara, worse than that is asadhutama, and the worst of all is ati asadhutama. Right? Okay, so we can see which category we are. Okay. So first one, sadhu. So what is the quality of a sadhu? He accepts even faults in others, since faults can eventually be transformed into good qualities by certain methods. Right? So basically, what is the point here? That they will see fault. They'll say, oh, he has this fault. But even that fault will become a, it'll be transformed into something nice. So that way they don't see the fault with the negative vision, though they may notice a fault. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives an example. Let's say someone speaks strongly, right? Speaks harshly. A sadhu will see that, oh, he speaks harshly, but maybe he will use that quality when someone needs to be corrected. And that's how a sadhu will see. Like, if someone is doing wrong, then maybe he will say, and he may give that treatment of like a neem juice, which is bitter to the person, but it will use that for correcting. So that fault in the person, you'll see eventually it will become a good quality. Right? Now, second, Mahatara. Mahatara means a person who is even more advanced than sadhu in terms he overlooks the faults and he sees the good qualities. And what is the example? Right? A materialistic merchant. Someone may see a materialistic merchant. He is materialistic, all concerned of money and this. And because he's concerned with money, when another person comes, he'll take care of the guest very nicely. Right? In business dealings, sometimes it happens that, okay, one businessman goes to the other person and the businessman is taking so good care of the other person. But why? So that his business gets successful. But how will a Mahatara see? He will overlook the fault that he's doing this with a materialistic gain, but he'll only see that, oh, how he's serving the other person so nicely. Right? Second. Third point, Mahattama. Right? Mahattama is he takes a small good quality and he magnifies that, not seeing any small faults. So even a small quality is there, oh, he'll glorify, he'll make it so big, right? He'll make it so big. And here the example Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that if someone has stolen a cloth from you, how will you think? A person who is Mahattama will say, oh, he took the cloth because it was cool. And not only that, he had a weapon, but he did not hurt me with a weapon. See, such a nice person. That is the vision of a Mahattama. Right? And then the last one is Ati Mahattama, the best of all. He sees good qualities others where there are none. There may be no good qualities, but he will see, oh, he has this quality. And the example is given that the person will see, oh, in this world, there are no bad people. Everyone is good, right? Though there may not be good qualities, he will see where there are none. And the example for this in terms of Lord Shiva is when Vrikrasura, right? He was doing his yagya to please Lord Shiva to get the blessing that anyone's head, he wanted a blessing that anyone's head, Vrikrasura puts his hand on his hand, that person's head will crash, right? And just break into pieces. But what was Lord Shiva actually seeing? He will see good qualities even in Vrikrasura. See how dedicated he is in doing the yagya. There are no good qualities, but still he'll find good qualities. Right? So that is the levels of a sadhu. Now, on the other side, who is a sadhu, so what is the first category? He thinks that someone's good qualities will turn into faults. Example is, if someone is helping you, right? Someone is helping you. And then what do you think? Oh, he wants my money. That's why he's helping. That is a sadhu. He may be just coming and doing good to you, but because your vision is actually corrupted, you will say, oh, because he wants my money, he wants my car or whatever, hence he's being nice to me. That is a sadhu. Second, a sadhu tara, he sees faults only, he overlooks the good qualities. Example is given. If a sannyasi eats rice with good quantity of ghee, what will a sadhutara see? It's like, see how he's greedy. He's eating, how he's actually eating all these rice. But he won't see how the sannyasi is actually going out and saving the world. He's preaching Krishna consciousness. Right? And third quality, a sadhutama. He takes small faults, magnifies them, seeing no good qualities. Example, if a renunciate comes and stays in the house of a married man, he comes and stays in the house of a married man, then a person will say, oh, he wants to steal money. There's no fault in that person, but he'll say, oh, he magnifies this and says like, oh, he wants to steal money. And ati sadhu sees only faults in others, even though there are no faults. And who is this? Daksha. Right? So if you see, Lord Shiva's position is Ati Mahatama, the best of all, and Daksha's position is Ati Asadhutama. Right? So entire contrast. Right? Like even when we say Yudhishthir Maharaj and Duryodhan, right? How they were sent to actually find. Yudhishthir Maharaj was actually sent to find what was it? A person below him, something like that. And then he went and he said, like, I cannot find anyone below me. Everyone is actually better than me. I mean, Duryodhan was actually sent to find someone who is better than him. He went and he searched everywhere. He said, like, I cannot find anyone better than me. I am the best, because all he saw was faults, right? So it's nice to see this, and also practically we can see, like even in our Vaishnav circles, we may see that, oh, this is sadhu, this is Mahatara, or our vision. We can actually see and say, like, okay, what should be our vision? Our vision should be see good qualities in others, even though there are none, and then we should not be any of the negatives, right? Don't see faults in others. Don't, you know, overlook their good qualities. Don't take a small fault and magnify it. And even if there's no fault, you're trying to find fault, avoid all those things. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, according to the amount of sattva, there are 4 types of sadhu. According to the amount of tamas, 4 types of bad persons. Right? So, divide devotees into 4 types by degrees of their bhakti yoga, which is the essence in Shuddha Sattva. Divide non-devotees 4 types by the amount of offenses they actually exhibit. Daksha also, he offended Brahma. We saw that in the previous chapter. Okay. Everyone okay with this? 4 positive, 4 negative. Any comments on this? So what is Daksha's position? Who is he?
Ati asadhutam.
And Lord Shiva is?
Ati mahatam.
Ati Mahatam. So best of those 4, and then Daksha is the worst of the 4.
Prabhuji, you gave an example of Lord Shiva saying good qualities, and who is that? Even in the
Vrikasura, right? Vrikasura was doing that to get the blessing that.
Yeah. No, I heard like Vrittasura. That totally
No,
changed.
no.
Vrittasura. Got it. Thank you.
It reminds me also that the pure devotee, Uttama Bhakti, Uttama Adhikari, will come to Madhyama level so that they can preach, because they have to see the faults so that they can help people. Or if they just see everyone is good, then they won't be able to preach Krishna.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. So like the first 4 qualities which we can see for a sadhu, so those all qualities we can see in Prabhupada also. And Prabhupada have shown through his examples, like many the Paschat, like the foreign devotees, they were having all the bad qualities, but Prabhupada turned all them in good qualities. And like one of the example, one story was there, like one person who was a thief, and he had a habit of stealing the things. So like, but he joined Krishna consciousness, and he said to Prabhupada after joining that, because he was a thief and his job was to do everything in the night time, so he was not able to sleep. Then Prabhupada said, okay, there are so many dogs, they are barking and disturbing my recordings and all. So you can just keep them away when I'm doing the recordings and all. So Prabhupada engaged them in that. And the other sadhu, you gave the example like how the person sees fault in everything. So we have seen the example of in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like the Amogha, the son-in-law of Sarum Bhattacharya, like when he used to see like how Lord Chaitanya eating, so he used to criticize, you are a sannyasi and how can you eat like sumptuous food like this? Yeah.
And who's the other one? Ramchandra?
Ramchandra Puri or?
Puri, right? I always get confused. Ramchandra Khan is that who's a devotee, and then Ramchandra Puri, right? He sees faults, like in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eating, and he sees an ant and says, oh, you're eating too many sweets because there are ants in your house, right? And then Prabhupada actually, he, to the point that you said, there's this famous story of how it's shown in Abhay Charan also. The Prabhupada is giving a class, and a bum from a street, like all drunk and intoxicated, and he comes disturbing the whole class and comes all the way in that Matchless Gifts shop and then he gives that brings a toilet paper, and then he goes and he puts it in the bathroom. And in Abhay Charan, they show that like so nicely. It's like drunkard is like, "Hey man, you should take this," like it's like drunk. And what does Prabhupada say? Everyone else is thinking that, oh, he's disturbing the room, disturbing the class. And Prabhupada says, he says, see, even he's doing seva. He brought the toilet paper for us. You know? So how Prabhupada's vision is that way. And also like the point you mentioned about like when he came to the West, yes, they were all hippies, drugs, illicit sex, like that hippie culture. But what Prabhupada was seeing? He was seeing they have spirit of renunciation. With India, we have this family ties, which are like, right? Like we make the point that how the rest of the world have, the problem is Maha Pap, right? They have so much sin. For Indians, it is Ma Bap, because that becomes our thing that holds us down, right? But Professor, in these Westerners, they are renounced. They already have that spirit of renunciation, and that's why they just give up everything immediately. Then. So Prabhupada was saying only the good qualities. So that's actually a nice point. Thank you. Okay, so we'll continue. Text number 12. Right, but this is nice, we should develop that mood. Always see good qualities, don't see faults. I mean, unless we are in the role of a guru, but we are seeing something just so that we can help the person, but our vision should be, not fault finding. Text 13.
Nasharyametadyara satsu sarvada mahadvininda kunapatmavadishu Shirshyam Mahapurushapadapam Shubir Nirastas Tejasu Tadeva Shobhanam. Arundhati Mataji. Arundhati Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It is not wonderful for persons who have accepted the transient material body as the self to engage always in deriding great souls. Such envy on the part of the materialistic person is very good because that is the way they fall down. They are diminished by the dust of the feet of great personality.
So here he makes the point that she makes the point Sati is making, na asharya. It's not surprising that kunapa atma vadishu, those who have accepted this dead body as our real self, what did they do? Sarvada mahat vininda. Those who are identifying only with the body, they will, what will do? They will always criticize great souls. Why? Because they are envious. Right? And then further she makes, Mahapurusha pada pamsubhihi. The dust of the feet of some Mahapurusha, of these great personalities, nirasta tejasu. It diminishes their glory. Eva shobhanam. And hence bestows the appropriate result. So what is the point here? So Vaishnavas, when they are criticized, they tolerate, but the dust of the lotus feet of these Vaishnavas does not tolerate it, and it destroys the glory of the other person. And so Prabhupada explains in the purport that how Bhagavatam stresses on this point. We see in the 5th canto, Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, where he says, Mahi yasam pada rajobhishekam. How can we get Krishna consciousness? Only when we take the abhishek. We do the abhishek from the dust of the lotus feet of Vaishnavas. Right? That's the only. But the same dust can also do harm. Why? When a person offends such a Vaishnava, right? Then the same dust will dry up the godly qualities of that other person. And then Prabhupada basically says, a great soul will just forgive the offenses, but Krishna does not excuse such offenses. Right? And he gives an example that we may be able to tolerate the heat on our head. Right? I mean, yesterday we were out, it was so hot. So the heat maybe on our head we can tolerate. But if you're barefoot on the floor, the ground is burning, you cannot tolerate that. Right? I mean, even in India, like in Vrindavan, you go during any of like April onwards, and especially the temples are marble. It is so hot, and you cannot wear your shoes inside the temple. You cannot even like stand on that floor. You'll be like really made to jump in ecstasy because it's so hot. It's so hot, you cannot stand. It's so hot. So Prabhupada makes the point that one can tolerate the heat on head, but not on the feet. So similarly, a Vaishnava can tolerate, but the dust of the lotus feet will not tolerate. Right? That means. And then Prabhupada makes this point that the offender, he glides down more and more and naturally continues to commit offenses at the feet. I mean, this is a very interesting point. See, when someone starts committing, let's say he does a small offense to a Vaishnava. Now, what is the result of the offense? What is the result of a Vaishnava Prat?
They will go away from the mercy of Krishna.
The Bhaktilata Bija that will die. The creeper will die.
Covered, it gets covered, okay.
The nourishment from Krishna stops, like in the sense, like, Bhakti is stopped, access to being nourished.
So Bhaktilata Beach, like we won't say it is destroyed, but it's covered. Because afterwards, like let's say he begs and begs for forgiveness by falling at the feet of Vaishnava, then that covering is taken away by Krishna. But in the meantime, it's covered. Right? So, I mean, all these points is actually saying. So what happens? Let's say one commits a small Vaishnava Prat. Then because of these points, his attachment to materialistic way of life increases. Right? So his bodily identification that way is actually increasing. And now if someone becomes more bodily conscious, that means what? He'll commit more offenses. So it is almost like a chain. You commit one offense, because of that, you're blocking the Krishna's mercy. Because of that, your attachments and anarthas, they increase, right? Then that's what happens, right? Attachments will increase, our anarthas will increase. And because of these two, we'll identify more with the body. And because we are identifying more, we cannot see the good quality, spiritual elevation, we'll commit more offenses. And this continues like a cycle. And hence Prabhupada says the offender glides down more and more and naturally continues to commit offenses at the feet. I mean, that's such an interesting point. It's not right here. But we see fourth canto, one way starts with the story of Daksha. And Daksha commits offense, does Vaishnava Prat. Right? Clearly, he offends Lord Shiva. How does the fourth canto end? Again, Daksha. I mean, the Prachetas, who becomes the son of the Prachetas? Again, Daksha. But then later on, what do we see? Daksha, even though in this pastime he begs forgiveness, he says, I have a goat head, all that, right? In one class I heard they said, like, we have Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Daksha became Supreme Personality of goat head. So, anyway, even he got a goat head, then he begged for forgiveness. He said, oh, I'm sorry, he begged to Lord Shiva, and he was forgiven. But because that tendency was there, later on we'll see, not in this canto, later on, where Daksha, he commits offense to Narad Muni. So a tendency to commit offense, even though he begged for forgiveness, but because that tendency was there, it continued like a cycle. This is very dangerous. That's the whole point. Like criticizing tendencies almost like an infectious disease, that's like hard to give out. Right? Yeah. Okay, so that's the point here. And okay, and then Prabhupada, he starts to purport by saying the point. See, everything depends on the strength of a recipient. If there's scorching sunshine, then many vegetables may dry up, but at the same time, others may grow very nicely because they need that sunshine. So similarly for us, we can get the highest benediction from the dust of a lotus feet of a Vaishnava. At the same time, if we are not the right recipients, that same dust of the lotus feet will actually destroy us. So Sati's point is basically, it's not surprising that you are envious because you are identifying with the dead body as a cell, and therefore you are criticizing great souls. But this same criticism is going to destroy you. Right? It's going to diminish your glory, and you will get the appropriate result for your offense. Text 14. Everyone okay so far? Okay. Text 14.
Is there a explanation of what this dust is? Like, is there, or is it just like what does it represent, or what is it? The dust of the pure devotee, because we know dust of Krishna's lotus feet is the devotees, right? What is the dust of the devotees' lotus feet?
So one way we can see is when we talk about dust of the feet of Vaishnavas, it is their mercy. So see, one we can say is the, I shouldn't say physical, but the actual dust. Like when you wash the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, then how when you approach Satyavrat Prabhu in our temple and say, Prabhu, I want the dust of your lotus feet. Prabhu says, I washed my feet today, so I have no dust. So, but that one is the physical dust. So when you wash the feet of a Vaishnava and you drink that water, you get purified. So one is that, right? So that mood is so much appreciated by Krishna that he's like, oh, your mercy, the Vaishnava, you're taking the mercy from the Vaishnava, so let that mercy flow to you. That's one. The second point of dust, like how Prabhupada says in one of the purpose, dust of the lotus feet means to follow the instructions of that person. You're taking the dust means to actually follow the instruction. When you follow the instruction, you're receiving the dust of that person. Right? Now, what does it mean that the dust itself will destroy us? The point is that same, see, that's what we are discussing, that same association which can actually liberate us, that same association with a Vaishnava will actually pull us down. You know? So that you're still getting the dust, but the same dust, the same association is a result that we'll pull down because we'll start commit offense and that'll become a chain of that events and that will actually pull us down. Right? Therefore, Sati makes the point. He concludes the verse by saying, hence you will get the desired, you will get the appropriate result for your offense. Because that same, your meditation on Lord Shiva from the negative side will actually pull you down.
Okay.
Okay, text 14.
I would just want to mention this to Mataji that Mataji, every year in Vrindavan during Purushottam Mass, our temple does a 64 Mahanta Seva of the presiding thing, 64 Mahants of Vrindavan. So they come and they wash their feet, and these Vaishnavas let them do, and they collect all the water. This is personally been told by Dinabandhu Prabhu to me, and he gave me that water. I was suffering from some disease, and he said, you drink this every day with full faith, everything will be okay. And that exactly what happened. So they purposely give that, Mataji. Actually, in Vrindavan, you can directly get the dust, but it is very, very sweet. Like when you wash a guru's water and you save it for over a year for the next Vyasa Puja and drink it every day. It's very purifying. So this happens in Vrindavan every year, every Purushottam Mass. Not every.
Thank you.
But I also like the line that Prabhupada has written in the text 13 purport that offenses are committed when people identify falsely with the impermanent body. To make distinctions like this is American, this is Australian, and this is white, this is black, then the people start committing offenses.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so let's continue. Text 14.
Yadvaksharam nama gireritam nranam sakrit prasangad agam ashuhanti tat pavitra kirtim tamalangya shashanam bhavanaho dreshti shivam shivetaraha.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Sati continued, my dear father, you are committing the greatest offense by envying Lord Shiva, whose very name, consisting of two syllables, Si and Va, purifies one of all sinful activities. His order is never neglected. Lord Shiva is always pure, and no one but you envies him.
Okay. So basically here she's making the point, Dvi Aksharam Nama. Dvi Aksharam means two, Akshara, name. Who is that? Shiva. So his name consisting of these two letters, right? Gira Iritam, merely being pronounced by the tongue. As soon as you say Shiva, everyone says Shiva. Shiva. Sakrit, at once, not many times, and even if it's said inattentively, you just say Shiva. Agam Asu Hanti. Immediately it destroys our sinful activities. That is the glory of Lord Shiva. Just by saying Shiva's name, even once, not even many times, our sinful activities are actually destroyed. First point. Second point she actually says is Pavitra Kirtan, whose fame is pure. Because of the sweet qualities of Lord Shiva, his fame is pure. Then third point, Alangya Shasana, whose order is never neglected. Right? This describes the power. So the first one describes the glory of the name. Second describes the glory of qualities. Third describes the glory of Lord Shiva's power. So name, qualities, and power. Right? Then Aho Dveshti, and you envy such a person. Therefore Shiva Itara. So it is actually inauspicious. So you're committing the greatest offense by envying such a person who has these three qualities. So Prabhupada in the purport, he says, Lord Shiva is the greatest soul among living entities. Therefore, Shiva, very auspicious, the name itself is very auspicious for persons who identify the body with the soul. So basically here, what is the point? That anyone who identifies the body as the real self, as soon as he chants the name Shiva, 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 he will actually be elevated to the spiritual platform where he will actually give up the identification with the material body. Therefore, Shiva's name is auspicious. Right? Means Mangala or auspicious. And as long as we do not realize that we are spirit soul, we identify with the body, everything is inauspicious. Auspiciousness starts, and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu first chapter makes this point. When we talk of the 6 qualities of pure devotional service, second quality is Shubhada. Right? What's the first quality? Kleshagni? Kleshagni, Shubhada. When Shubhada, Rupa Goswami actually in Shubhada, he explained that Shubhada means auspicious. Right? Because bhakti brings us to the spiritual platform. And when you come to the spiritual platform, everything is auspicious. As long as you are in the material platform, then as long as you identify with the body as a self, everything is inauspicious. Okay. Then further, Prabhupada makes the point. Yes, by saying the Shiva name, you'll come to the spiritual platform. If someone is not intelligent enough, he'll stop at that platform. But someone who's really intelligent will actually act in a way that Lord Shiva actually acted. What does that mean? Not imitating the way Lord Shiva lives, but trying to follow the state what Lord Shiva is, which is Vasudeva Sattvam. Right? Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Sattvam. So we should try to come to the stage of Vasudeva. That means really following Lord Shiva. Right? And then further, Prabhupada says how Lord Shiva himself, he tells his wife Parvati that Aradhanam Sarvesham Vishnur Aradhanam Param. Of the best kind of worship is to worship Vishnu, but higher than that is to worship the devotee of Vishnu. Okay. And then Prabhupada further makes the point that one should not make a mistake of considering Lord Shiva and Vishnu to be on the same level. This is a verse that Prabhupada frequently quotes. He says, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Devatam Samatvai Naiva Viksheta Sapan Pashandi Bhave Dhruvam. That as soon as we consider Shiva and Vishnu are same, then who are we? Pashandi, atheistic. Okay. So she's making the point that, since you are envying such a person, you are inauspicious, and that is, you are committing the greatest offense. Okay, text 15.
Oh, what is the second point you said? Glories of name and glories of? The last one, flower, but glories of?
Pavitra Kirtan, the fame. Which is actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, is one way glorifying the qualities. It is because of the qualities of Lord Shiva, his fame is actually glorious. So first is name, second is qualities, third is power. Okay, text 15. So maybe one last verse we'll do and we can stop there.
Yatpada padmam mahatam manolidir nishevitam brahmarasasavartibihi lokasya yadvarshati chashishortinas tasmai bhavandruyati vishvabandhave.
Mataji, you did not read.
Who, me? No, it's okay, Mataji, because I'm doing all the shlokas.
Okay. You are envious of Lord Shiva, who is the friend of all living entities within the three worlds. For the common man, he fulfills all desires, and because of their engagement in thinking of his lotus feet, he also blesses higher personalities who are seeking after Brahmananda, transcendental bliss.
So previous verse said how Shiva's name is so glorious that it actually destroys all one's sin, right? This verse is saying how Shiva's ability to give liberation, right? So basically here is saying, Yet Pada Padmam, the lotus feet of whom, Manaha Alibihi. Alibihi is like the bee of the mind when is Nisevitam, is actually engaged in that lotus feet of Lord Shiva. Then one, Mahatam, the higher personalities who are actually seeking Brahma Ras, the transcendental bliss of Brahmanda, Asava Artibi, who are seeking that nectar. So the point is how Lord Shiva is a friend of all. Even those who are actually seeking Brahmanda, they actually approach Lord Shiva. And then by approaching Lord Shiva, they get the Aswaha Artibi. They get the honey of the nectar of Brahmanda, the bliss of Brahmanda. The second class, those who are common men, Lokasya, Varshita Ashishya. What is the name of Lord Shiva? Ashutosh. So even common men, they approach Lord Shiva and they say, oh Lord Shiva, please give me good wife, good husband, whole list. And Lord Shiva is so kind. He says, okay, that's what you want? Take. But even that way, by Lord Shiva is fulfilling the desire, he's actually helping them. How? Because Prabhupada explained Dharma, Artha, Kama, and then when your Kama is fulfilled, then what happens? You get tired. It's like, I'm trying, still I'm not getting fulfilled. You aspire for moksha. So in that way also Lord Shiva is actually helping us get moksha. So this verse is talking for the Mahatams, those who are seeking the Brahmanda, for the common man, right, Lokasya, and then Vishwa Bandhave. He is the friend of all living entities. And Prabhupada in this third, he actually adds the point of Vaishnavas. So those who are the higher personalities, the common men, and the Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas, they worship Lord Shiva? Yes. Why? Gopishwar Mahadev, to enter Vrindavan. Right? So everyone, the common man, those who are seeking Brahmanda, those who are seeking Krishna's devotion, all of them worship Lord Shiva. Therefore, Lord Shiva is the friend of all. But Tasmai Bhavan Druyati. But you are envious of such a person. Okay. Okay. And if we like continuing, but I mean the next few verses are nice, but I think stop is 942. Okay. Everyone, any okay to this session up to this point? So we completed up to text number 15. Right? So next time we'll do 16 onwards and complete the chapter like the next time. Any realizations, any points you would like to share before we end?
Probably I like different the four kinds of sadhus and asadhus. You explained it. Examples given, of course, about Shiva and Daksha, but Dharmaraj and Suryodhana. I really like that, and how Srila Prabhupada is taking and like seeing only good qualities in all others. Very nice. Thank you so much.
I was actually just something incident happened which I was just noticing and thinking about it, that like one person was criticizing another person, that person was not there and saying something negative, and I was thinking like, Why would you say that? And just that thought came that, when we have a negative fault in our heart, that's when we will actually bring out negative things in our heart. When we are speaking negative of someone, it's a reflection of our own consciousness. And it just like kind of hit me that when we speak negative, it's actually reflecting who we are. So,
Like jaundiced person sees everything yellow.
yes. Yeah. Okay. Any other points?
I like what you said about answering to Ratnaratika Mataji's question, that dust of the lotus feet means to follow their instructions and also their mercy.
So that's, I think, one of the purpose we discussed in Bhagavatam, in the third canto, Prabhupada said, dust of the feet means to follow the instructions. Okay. Anything else?
Hey Krishna Prabhuji, I really like what you said about if we speak something negative about some people, it reflects who we are. I'm going to write it down. So thank you.
Thank you.
Also, Prabhuji, we are reading about how Sati is glorifying Lord Shiva's good qualities. So, and if we offer respect to Lord Shiva, meditating on these good qualities, Lord Shiva will bless us, that we will have the material attachments will slowly go away.
Okay. Okay, everyone. So we'll end here to the big festival, Rath Yatra in the temple. So please come early. And we have nice programs, Rath Yatra. There's a kind of a narrative drama presentation. So it'll be nice. So please join. 4 o'clock Aarti starts, and then 4:30 we'll have the presentation, and then 5:30 is Rath Yatra. Okay. So see you all in the evening. Thank you all so much for coming. And next week we will not have class because we have a Ras Chintamani retreat, 3 days full Harikatha weekend. So next Sunday there will no class, but the following Sunday we'll continue onwards. Okay, so thank you all so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Brother Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.